Orleans Humanist Perspective, presented by the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, following our few principles of humanism.
We're committed to the use of science and reason for understanding the universe and for solving human problems. We're skeptical of untested claims of knowledge, but we're open to new ideas.
We are concerned with securing justice and fairness in society and in ending intolerance and discrimination. We are committed to the total separation of religion and government.
We affirm humanism as a realistic alternative to the theologies of despair and the ideologies of violence. We reject the concept of an afterlife and believe in living a full and rewarding life here and now.
We value and respect each individual's right to judge and lead their lives according to their own position, as long as it's respectful of other people living in a free society.
We hope you enjoy today's program and others in the weeks to follow. Hello again. You folks know me. I'm Harry Greenberger, president of the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association. We have on our show today a couple of people who are representing the Resources for Human Development, and that is Genevieve Durkin and Judge Calvin Johnson. I welcome both of you to our show, and I am interested in two things: your parent organization, the Resources for Human Development, but I got particularly interested in your more recent program, which is called New Hope. And so I'm going to let either of you start telling us whatever you want us to hear.
Well, sure. I'll start with that. Resources for Human Development, often referred to as RHD, has been an agency providing social services in the greater New Orleans area for over 15 years. We have a variety of mobile teams and residential set programs that support the most vulnerable, most severely mentally ill and marginalized populations. We serve mentally ill and substance abuse individuals. On a daily basis, we touch across all of our programs approximately 1,000 lives on any given day. And we've partnered with many state and local agencies, JPHSA, VA, and have welcomed our partnership with MHSD. It seems like
MHSD is
the Metropolitan Human Services District.
Oh, okay.
And in partnering with Judge Johnson and MHSD, it seemed like a very natural fit to bring crisis services through us into the Orleans, Plaquemines, and St. Bernard parishes. So I work with those two teams. One's a mobile team, and one is one of our residential teams, through our crisis response team and the New Hope program.
Are you just Orleans Parish, or are you wider than that?
No, MHSD's catchment area is Orleans, Plaquemines, and St. Bernard. Okay. So these programs specifically support that. RHD supports beyond the specific area. But
in our local area, there's a vast number of people needing your services, is there not?
I would agree with that statement.
And is that group of people, is that number growing or is it diminishing?
Judge, you want to talk to the current climate?
It's difficult to determine if, in fact, it's growing. We know, though, there are a lot of unmet need. We know that.
Yes.
And one of the things we've tried to do in the course of time, especially in the last 4.5 years, with MHSD, which is the Metropolitan Human Service District. Again, it provides care in 3 parishes, Orleans, St. Bernard, and Plaquemine. But what we've tried to do is create a continuum of care. And part of that continuum of care is what RHD is in fact doing, and both in terms of 2 aspects of what they're doing. They provide assertive community treatment to a group of individuals, 100 individuals to be exact, who are very sick people, but who also can have care wrapped around them so that they can live comfortably in our community, not in a hospital, not under the bridge, and not in jail.
But primarily, are we talking about people with mental problems and addictions? Is that primarily the people that you're serving, or does it go beyond that?
The 2 programs that I work with primarily are focused strongly with mentally ill individuals, individuals that also have a co-occurring disorder with substance abuse, and that our crisis team can respond to adults and children. And through that process, let me explain that process. So an individual in the community that may be experiencing a crisis can call us at 826-2675 and would reach 24 hours a day, will reach an individual that is skilled in evaluating a crisis. We can discuss and we triage into levels of care. Somebody might just want resources, kind of is trying to get into the clinics and seek actual community-based services that exist, or someone might truly be in crisis at that moment. We have the ability to then dispatch, which we would respond to in the community to the crisis in teams of 2, and assess at that point kind of what level of care an individual may need. One level of care that they could possibly go is then they go into New Hope, which is a new, first time in Louisiana, established crisis respite program.
I'm very interested in that. Up until the time that you established New Hope, and I'll let you all tell me what that is, you had to work through other facilities, but now you have one of your own. Tell us about New Hope.
Just to add somewhat to it, this is so new for New Orleans, so new for this area. We've never had the kinds of care or services today we have in the city. We really haven't. And again, they're fragile in terms of being new, but they're also services that can, in fact, get at what we see so much in terms of issue with people with behavioral health need, who are mentally ill, who may be co-occurring in terms of illness and substance abuse, but also may be developmentally disabled and mentally ill, and have a substance issue.
Absolutely.
We have these services, and that's what we are describing today. Are those kinds of services, especially that telephone number, 826-2675, that they answer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for care for both adults and kids. That's phenomenal, to be honest.
How do people know about your telephone number and what you can do for them? How do they know to get in touch with you?
Well, that's what we're building today, and at any given time is that, in New Orleans, the best form of advertisement is word of mouth. So I think also through providing, respectful, supportive treatment to individuals, respecting their dignity, and in a home-like, supportive environment gets spread.
All right.
And anyone, we are welcome to, that they give out our number, because it's a consistent number and we'll answer it 24 hours a day.
That's very
We
good.
hope that people like you will help us, and this program will help us.
I hope we have enough of an audience that and I don't imagine we're going to have people who need your services watching this show, but they may know people who need your services.
Absolutely.
Now, tell us more about what the New Hope facility is.
Okay. So New Hope is, it's a facility that currently can support 5 individuals, male or female adult. We're looking to expand that service to up to 8 individuals.
When you say supports, you mean they can come and stay there?
They come and stay. It's individuals that are in a crisis that can't resolve their crisis within their own home community, that need additional support, but that are not as acutely in crisis to really need hospital treatment. So it's based on diverting unnecessary, costly hospitalizations and emergency room visits. So that's kind of the focus, is that
previously they would have gone to the emergency room.
Yes.
All right, now that you have an alternative for them, and what do you do for them when they're there?
We provide a strengths-based assessment. They see a psychiatrist, there's nurses, there's counselors. We're supported 24 hours a day by a minimum of at least 2 staff that can provide individual, group, and supportive treatment. But in addition to that, which is different than a hospital treatment, is that they're rebuilding their skills of daily living. So they prepare their own meals, they clean their own bedrooms, they kind of are relearning the skills to cope with their illnesses and to be successful in a less restrictive environment.
When they're there, and if you find that one of them really needs something more intensive, what do you do?
we follow our regular system, and if they need hospitalization, because that is still a needed part of the continuum of services, we help them access that need.
Now, my understanding about the city's homeless population is that a very large percentage of them are either mentally ill or addicted to something. Now, these homeless people, how do they, they don't have a telephone, I presume. How do they get to you? Or do you go out and look for them?
Through several different ways. In terms of having the district itself, the Metropolitan Human Service District's connection with other providers that are directly associated with that population, be it Unity for the Homeless, be it the city's own homeless outreach program, be it those homeless shelters that shelter them, Ozanam Inn, the Mission, but the district being directly connected with those programs, but also doing outreach in those areas where that population shows up. They're utilizing that outreach to get that population, at least those who we can convince to come to care, to get them to care.
Tell me about your, I hate to put it this way, your success rate.
Okay. I think the best way to express success is maybe with a success story.
Okay.
We had an individual that came to us through our crisis response team. Actually, a family member called. That's quite often. So the idea of having the number is that the individual themselves doesn't have to call.
Exactly.
An agency provider in the community. We've had calls from employees at City Hall that somebody might be in their office experiencing somewhat of a crisis. Anyone can call, and we assist in figuring out what our appropriate response can be once the call comes in. So I want to make sure that that's clear, that anyone can call 826-2675. And that, so we had an individual's mother call about her daughter who had been mentally ill for many years, had over 30 emergency room visits or inpatient hospitalizations. We were able to dispatch, assess, and found out that at that time, New Hope was an appropriate referral source. From coming in, through staying, 5 to 10 days, she was able to be connected back into the system, be assessed, and we actually made a referral to an assertive community treatment team that she has been linked into and has been successful since then for several months, that has not had any more hospitalizations. She had been extremely paranoid and scared to be around people, though also scared to be alone. She's currently engaging in groups. She's being actively socializing with other peers, and that's the goal, is that she now has wraparound services that can hopefully prevent that revolving door.
Well, in severe cases, do some of these people have to go to a state institution for the mentally ill? We do have such places. Do any of the people you deal with, are they so severe that you have to send them on to that sort of facility?
We don't make the determination of that level. Our first step would be if they meet criteria for hospitalization. Okay. Once in a hospital, depending upon their ability to resolve their symptoms at that time, those types of institutions would make any further
And
referrals.
When you say hospitalization, in New Orleans, what hospital are we talking about?
That of course is a loaded question in terms of what's going on with the number of beds or the access to that kind of care. We have located in New Orleans, though, some beds still located in the city of New Orleans, both with DePaul, which is a part of the LSU system, the LSU hospital itself, in terms of its ER room and its ER access beds and other beds there. But then there are other beds in this community that are not connected necessarily with the state system directly, but are accessible by those who need that kind of care. There are other beds there. One of the benefits now of having a managed system, a managed care system, with Medicaid being a funding source for people, there are other hospitals, being the array of hospitals in New Orleans, that will take that population, who in fact have that insurance, will take that population. So even though we've lost some state beds in this area, we've in fact gained other beds which are now accessible for those with that form of insurance called Medicaid. So that's a plus. The minus, of course, is those who don't have that insurance, and then must, of course, need the care, and where do they go? They may have to leave this area for the care. Our goal is to provide care such on an outpatient basis that we reduce the need for inpatient care.
Yes, well,
that's our goal.
That would be preferable.
That's our goal.
But when you're talking about having lost facilities, are we talking about Charity Hospital?
Oh, absolutely. Charity before the storm had 103 or 107. I think it was 107 beds that were located at Charity Hospital. That was intermediate care beds there, which are, of course, all gone.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be quite some time before they reappear, is it not?
It will be.
It'll be quite a while. So you're going to have to get along without a facility that had been serving your purpose. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, now, there's been a lot of recent talk about getting the homeless people off the streets, some of whom don't want to get off. Mm-hmm. And recently I was talking about getting them out from under the overpasses. What is your opinion about that?
One of the things that we have to come to grips with, in another part of my life, I teach a class at Loyola Law School. And in that class at Loyola Law School, we talk a lot about the rights of people and what those rights are.
Yes.
And sometimes it's difficult for society to come to grips with the reality that a person who decides to sleep in public is not committing a crime. And so it's hard because we see people who are in fact doing that, and we want to say, my God, don't do it, go somewhere else, do something else. But sleeping in public is not a crime. It really isn't. And so that's an aspect of what we have to deal with in terms of dealing with people who decide to live in a certain fashion, especially those who also have a mental illness, and because of that illness, that's why they're choosing to live in a certain fashion. Our task is to educate, is to convince them that there is care for your illness, and if you come and you participate and you get that care, you can live a different way. But that's our task.
Well, now, regarding, and I've seen numbers about how many homeless people are in our area, and I don't know how they count them, but are these native people, or are they coming in here from other parts of the country?
New Orleans is a warm weather spot.
Exactly.
Yeah, and what like Unity, for instance. When they talk about it, they talk about areas like New Orleans, like San Diego, like Miami, like these other places where you attract people who live on the street. You attract those people because of the weather. And also in New Orleans because of the way New Orleanians are. We have a lot of laissez-faire in terms of how we go about life. And so our lifestyle itself attracts people who choose to live in a certain fashion, especially young people. There's a significant number of young people in this community who are choosing to live in a way that we would not necessarily think proper.
Is it a legitimate concern that the more good you do for these homeless people, the more from the outside will want to come here and take advantage of it? You know, when you make it better, is that going to attract more people that you have to care for?
In a sense that's true, because there's a great effort now on the part of the city in terms of dealing with homelessness and trying to house, and a part, again, agencies like Unity setting up and starting up new programs and new places where the homeless population can live. That's very attractive. And so that attracts, you're correct. I mean, it does. It attracts people to the community.
So many years back when I was the head of the French Quarter Business Association, and we had a problem with panhandlers in the quarter, which is annoying to tourists, and tourists are keeping us alive. And at that time, Sheriff Foti told us that a lot of these panhandlers come to New Orleans, want to get arrested because when they go into jail, they understand that there's really good food in the Orleans Parish Prison, and they have a place to sleep and some good food. And so it was sort of appealing to them. which sort of makes the problem a little worse because that makes more of them, want to come here. Are you, with your capacity and your facilities, can you keep up with the need, or do you need to expand?
Well, I think that, need drives, industry. So where the need is at, we want to, if the need expands, we hope to grow. That's where, we just kind of want to stay in balance. And currently, with any population, we do have individuals that have come to New Hope from the street, homeless individuals that, we've had quite a bit of success relinking into their community mental health system, relinking into the homeless options that they have that may be beyond just the standard shelter system, and re-engaging in improving upon their symptoms that are keeping them living on the streets. So I think it's based on the motivating factor.
They need to expand. We need to be able to figure out how to expand that.
On that topic, everything takes money. How are you funded?
It's funded in two ways. In one way is it's funded through Medicaid can fund some aspects of this, and that's something we're getting to. It's also funded through resources that the district provide in terms of a contract we have with RHD to provide the services. That's a funding source that we have and that we've been able to use for this purpose. The problem we have is that funding source, like everything else, is declining rapidly as we speak.
Is that a state funded that we're talking about, and our governor is contracting, reducing state activities? Now, and I don't know much about this, but didn't our governor reject some Medicaid help? Is that money that might have benefited you?
Not directly. But the monies, though, that we use to support this program is state general fund funds.
Yes.
And those funds are declining. This is just factual. I mean, they are declining. And therefore, our ability to continue to fund this program over the course of time will be directly related to that funding source. However, there is Medicaid, but we have to figure out how to use it for this particular purpose.
But now many...
And supporting those that don't have Medicaid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Many nonprofit organizations depend upon contributions or members or something. Do you get any private source money?
We do not. We are strictly a state entity, and we do not receive any kind of grant funding today.
Are you prohibited from doing that as a state?
In our structure, as we're structured now, we're looking at restructuring such that we can go after other kinds of funds, other than the state or federal fund, but that we can go after grant funds and use some of that funding.
Well, many public service type organizations, mainly the tax exempt ones, rely heavily on private donations. And if you're thinking about maybe trying to tap into that, there are people out there who are willing to support, good, worthy causes. All right, well, we've still have about 5 minutes left to discuss whatever you all would like to bring to the attention of our audience. So feel free to do so.
One of the things that we're really trying to get at in our community is to educate people as to the reality of mental illness and the fact that people can live comfortably, and they can live in a supportive fashion with mental illness. We can live in our community. We can do the same with that population, the same we do with people with other forms of illness, like diabetes, for instance. And we can wrap care around people like we do with people who are very seriously diabetic, but wrap care around them such that they can live comfortably in the community. And that should be a goal that we have. That should be our goal, to be sure that the people we care for can in fact be cared for in the community, and that people who provide supports to them can know how to do so and do so safely. But that's a goal.
Now, if people want to contact you, maybe because they know someone who needs your help or whatever, and you mentioned a telephone number, do you also have like a website for either of these things?
We both have websites.
All right. Well, why don't you tell our audience what the website is and do it twice in case someone wants to write it down.
For RHD, it's very simple. It's www.rhd.org, and you can see the variety of programs that we have. You want to search to Louisiana specifically, and you can select the state at the top. So that's rhd.org, and you can contact for crisis services at 826-2675.
Do the telephone number again.
It's 504-826-2675.
All right. And then you also have a website.
Absolutely, we do. It's mhsdla.org. mhsdla.org is how you can access us through that website. And again, crisis is, I think, if nothing else, that's remembered from this show, is that 504-826-2675 number, that they answer 24/7. That's care for kids, care for adults, and it's there and it's available to this community.
Since you mentioned kids and adults, do you have many children that require your facilities?
Absolutely. The New Hope residential side is adults only, but kids in crisis and seeking out other respite programs there are additional needed services in the community, and children is definitely one of them.
I see. Well, now, these kids in crisis, are they generally referred to you by some agency who they've come to the attention of, or who brings the kids to you?
Our number one referral source for kids is the schools. A kid in crisis at school, and
so the school might refer them to you.
School can call us. We we link as part of the continuum with additional services with the CART team during the day, and after hours. Family members, parents have called, babysitters, neighbors, anybody has called.
And the schools, all the schools in the area are aware of your services and how to get in touch with you.
One of the things we're trying to do is to educate all that community, be it the school community, but other kinds of stakeholders that see kids and that need to have access to this service, to make them aware of it. One of the things the community though must realize is that this is all new for this community. This is new for the state of Louisiana. We are steps ahead, and this is surprising, steps ahead in New Orleans in terms of this form of care and the access that we can provide in terms of this form.
I'm glad to know that New Orleans is ahead, at least in this respect, because we get a lot of bad press. All right. Well, you want to take another minute before we have to say goodbye to whatever you want to tell the folks out there watching us?
I think it's just to call first before you head to the emergency room and see whether or not you can link into services.
That's good. Well, I want to thank all you folks for watching our show. We hope you will be with us often, and we'll see you next week.